Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights Symposium. My name is Samantha Maltese. I'm a member of the Wampanoag Tribe of Quechua. I am a lecturer at Brandeis University in the Legal Studies Department and a 3L at Harvard Law School. And so we'll go around and do some introductions and have our presenters introduce themselves. I'll go this way.
Hello, everyone. I am Rodina Cave Parnall. I am the Executive Director of the American Indian Law Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And you can see from my bio that's available on the website that I am the former Pre-Law Summer Institute Director. I'm still acting in that role right now until we find someone to continue on. And I'm the former Senior Policy Advisor to the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs. And I've also, before that, I represented tribes and tribal entities in Arizona and Mexico.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Bowman. I am the Dean of Roger Williams University School of Law in Bristol and Providence, Rhode Island. Roger Williams University School of Law for 3.
Thank you guys so much. So I think we're going to go straight into presentations. I'll again start with Rodina, who has a PowerPoint, and it's her birthday. To everyone viewing.
Yes, thank you. This was really important for me to be here, I feel like. And so, yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I sort of always start kind of the same way in a lot of these presentations, because it doesn't really matter if I'm talking to students or to administrators or to tribal leaders. I think that it's important that we share that there is an urgent need for Native attorneys and for Native judges. And, you know, that it's my starting point because it's a really important message. Our organization, as you can see from our slides, has been in existence since 1967. And the reason why it started in the first place is because in the 60s, there was a survey that I don't exactly know to be able to cite it to you, but there was a survey that started the American Indian Law Center. And that survey, the results of that survey were that there were 25 American Indian attorneys who identified as American Indian at that time in the mid-1960s. And there was definitely a need. And, you know, here we are, we're 55 years old at this point, and we can't say that the need has been met. It hasn't. It is still an ongoing need. And if anything, it is more urgent than it has ever been. And, you know, there's lots of different reasons for that. You can go ahead and advance. I want to tell you what the American Indian Law Center does. We are the oldest existing Indian managed and Indian operated legal and policy organization. And, you know, what we have focused on is training and technical assistance to tribes and tribal courts. We also run the Southwest Intertribal Court of Appeals, the SWITCA court. And if you look on our website, you'll see that, you know, we do have a lot of information there regarding SWITCA. And one of our flagship programs is our pre-law programming, Pre-Law Summer Institute, and all of its programs. Next slide. And I love this picture from PLSI 1968. I think that you can really see, first of all, you can see that it was a lonely time, I think, for women. There weren't very many women attorneys. And if you look in our hallway, if you ever come to Albuquerque and come to the University of New Mexico, please make sure that you let me know you're stopping by, and I'll take you down the hallway. We have the photos of all of our classes from 1970 through 2023. Apparently in 1967, 68, and 69, they weren't taking official class photos. But in 1970, they started doing the official class photos. And it's interesting and wonderful to see how many more women there are in the more recent classes. More than 50% of each class is women. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm back to this concept of, and you'll hear me say over and over, this need for Native attorneys. I usually start here too, that, until 2000, the year 2000, when Congress repealed a particular law that required tribes to have attorney contracts approved by the federal government. Tribes, before that, tribes had to have their attorneys approved by the Department of the Interior, their attorney contracts approved. And this won't surprise many people, I'm sure, that even in the case of when a tribe was suing the federal government, they had to have their attorney approved, the attorney contract approved by Department of the Interior. And so there's a lot of nodding for folks on Zoom. There's a lot of, yes, that's, and after 2000, when it was appealed, it's, tribes can choose their own attorneys. And guess who they want to be their attorneys? They want Native attorneys. That's who they want. And so that's, part of our mission. And also, I mean, we're not going to just stop at attorneys. We need more Native judges, and not just on the tribal benches, but on the federal bench, on the state benches. If you think about if there are any, I don't know, I mean, we are here in Rhode Island. Are there any Native judges on the bench? Do we know? There aren't. Okay. And I think that's the case in a lot of states, that there are no Native judges. And, there's this concept, right, that Natives are subject to the American justice system, but the representation is not there. So if you're going to subject a group of people to a justice system, to the American justice system, then the idea is that there should be representation there on the side of the decision makers, the people who are actually making the decisions that affect tribes and individual Indians. So that is also something that we're considering. And one of the things that you'll hear me talk about some aspects of our program, and one of those is judicial clerkships, that we really encourage judicial clerkships. And professors. There's a real need. I don't know if folks look at who was talking about Turtle Talk earlier. Was that you? Turtle Talk is really, I hope that folks get on Turtle Talk and get the emails. It's a really important connector in the Indian legal field. And a lot of times there's these different announcements for law schools that are seeking professors to teach Indian law. There's a real need. There's an urgent need for more professors. There's all these openings for Indian law professors, and a lot of schools are, many schools are teaching it now just as adjuncts, but some schools are actually incorporating it into a full-time position within their schools to teach Indian law. So that's also important. Next slide. Okay, so here's some of what we do. For our pre-law programs, because that's what I'm here to talk about, is this, this pipeline or a pathway for folks to get from the desire to be a lawyer, and after listening to me talk about the need for more Native lawyers, to get to the place where they're practicing. And so we have a few things that we do. We do pre-law outreach. We have advisor training, and there's some materials in if you received your folders when you checked in, there's some materials for our pre-law advisors training, and for our pathway, also our Pathway to Law program, which is, and I don't know if you went to Pathway to Law program. Okay, so Pathway to Law program is a 5-day workshop. This year it's going to happen at UC Berkeley. Last year it was, and it's our 10th year. We've been doing this for 10 years. It's a 5-day workshop to teach folks how to apply to law school. And really, you do need the full 5 days to learn how to apply to law school. It is a completely different, I'm seeing nods over here too. It is a different animal. It's a different path. It is completely different than applying to anything else. And there are, there's these keys that you need, and we're there to provide the keys to you to tell you what you need to get into law school. And then, the PLSI program, which is the summer program, which is an 8-week intensive, very rigorous. Our alumni call it a boot camp. And so Samantha is an alumna of our program, of our 8-week summer program. And so, yes, it is a very intense program. But after the program, it used to be that we just did the 8-week summer program, and then, we would kind of leave you off at the law school door. And now we have so much more than that. And there's lots of reasons for that, but we do have additional funding from Bureau of Indian Education, and we've been able to expand our programs to include support while students are in law school, to summer clerkships, and we'll talk about each one of these things quickly, just so that you can kind of see like where the needs are in the process. Judicial clerkships and bar exam support. Can you go to the next one? How am I doing on time? Am I good? Okay. So pre-law outreach. If you are, again, the 5-day workshop to teach students how to apply to law school, it comes with a free LSAT prep course. You take an LSAT practice exam. You learn how to apply to law school. It is, there's a panel of attorneys and of law students. And it's not something where it's taught by law school admissions folks. And it's not something where it's a recruitment event. It isn't. It really is people who just want to be there to teach people how to get into law school. And then again, the pre-law advisors program, where we invite folks to Albuquerque in February, and we have travel reimbursements for people who are from tribal education departments, from tribal colleges and universities. If you're at a school where you're supporting a population of Native students, we want to see if we can get you out to Albuquerque to participate in our training. And I tell folks too that it doesn't even have to be one of those positions. A lot of times, if you're the only attorney on a reservation or in a particular area, if you're the only attorney there, I know you're doing pre-law advising. I know you are. And so we want you to have the tools that you need in order to do that. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, what's the summer program? I should really have Sammy talk about what the summer program is. You can jump in anytime. It's, it's intense.
It's intense. Can confirm.
It's 8 weeks of coursework. And by the end of the summer, you will have taken, real law school courses, midterms, finals. You've done 2 legal papers. Go ahead to the next slide. And what's our goal in all of this? So when I talked about the pathway program, that 5-day workshop, that really is to help students to successfully apply to get into law school. This program is to teach you the skills that you need to be a successful law student. Completely different thing. And law school is, I said that students have heard me say this, there's nothing natural necessarily about the skills that you need to be successful in law school. They are skills, and you do have to learn them in order to be successful. But what our program does is we teach the skills, and the rest of the summer is about you practicing those skills and getting good at it, and getting feedback and correcting things and getting reinforcement. And all of that is very important. And our measure of success, we have a 90% success rate. And the measure of success is based on the students who make it through their first year of law school and are eligible to return for the second year. Because typically, if you make it through your first year of law school and you're eligible to return, if you drop out after that point, it's not because of your academics. It's usually financial or personal reasons. So that's our measure of success. And also what's also really important in this whole thing is that it is so isolating to be a law student, especially a Native law student. you could be the only Native person in your law school class. And so a lot of what we do is cohort development over the summer so that you stay in touch with these people forever. I went through PLSI in 1998. I came back as a teaching assistant in 1999, and I am still very close with the people I went through PLSI with, because no one's going to understand what you're going through. I mean, if your family is supportive, if you have a partner who's really supportive, I mean, it's wonderful, but only really other Native law students are really going to get what you're going through. And I'm seeing more nodding when you're in law school. We also do a lot of professional development. Next slide, please. And so our academic program, I talked about it. And one thing that we offer, it's usually first year classes and, a writing class. But one of the things that we take pride in is that we offer Indian law every year. And back in the day, if you wanted to get Indian law, you had to go to PLSI because nobody offered it. There was no book. Nobody offered Indian law. And but like I was saying earlier, there's a lot more, many more schools are offering Indian law and providing that background for students. And I think, we say that Indian law used to be on a lot of exams, on a lot of bar exams. And after it went to the uniform bar exam, it's not on there anymore. It can be offered separately, but it used to be a subject on the New Mexico bar exam. It isn't anymore. Next slide. Okay, so one of the reasons why we're so rigorous is because we hire real law school faculty. We hire real professors from law schools. They want to come to us. They want to teach in our program because they're teaching an entire class of Native pre-law students who will go to or plan to go to law school in the fall. And so it's very important. Our faculty are very important to the program. And then teaching assistants. Go ahead. So what are the skills that they need for law school, and what are the skills that we work on over the course of the summer? It's, it is a different thing, learning how to read cases, learning how to brief cases, identifying issues. And, that whole thing when I bring up to students reading, they're like, I know how to read. Like, nobody wants to teach me how to read. But it's difficult to explain to them how different it is to read a case. And that, if it's a different thing. When I say it's a different animal, it really is. And time management and test taking skills. And again, it's through practice. We want the students at the end of the summer to be able to go to law school and hit the ground running and not have to figure out what the semester is going to look like, when they should start outlining all of that. Next slide. And we also, one of the big things about our program is that we offer conditional admissions. There are some law schools that will offer a student a conditional admission, meaning law student, if you go to PLSI and get a particular grade point average or higher over the summer, we will offer you admission for the fall. And most of our students come with an admission letter in hand. They already have their financial aid package. They got their apartment in their new city or whatever. But some of our students are engaging in the program to get a place to land for the fall. And that's because of our evaluations that, the only reason why we're able to do the conditional admissions is because law schools know us and they know our program, and they've heard me talk about the need for more Native attorneys. And so they know that they can rely on our program. They know that our program is not easy, and that the students that come from our program actually have the skills that they need to be successful. Go ahead. There's definitely financial considerations for our students to engage in the program, but we're able to offer a lot more than we have in the past. Go ahead. Applying to PLSI is similar to applying to law school, and a lot of what you need the same things. The only difference is that we require proof that you have applied to a law school, and we also require proof of membership in a federally recognized tribe in order to receive the funding. So we've had conversations about this. And I deeply regret, and I tell Destiny this, I deeply regret that we missed her and that she went to law school without PLSI. But one of the conversations about this is, you know, it certainly fits into what people have been discussing here today, is just the whole recognition aspect that is required to receive Bureau of Indian Education funding. Thankfully, I mean, we have to require that. We can take up to 36 students in our program every year. And our agreement is that, you know, if we don't fill the class with the BIE funded students, that we can accept students who are not federally recognized, who are from other Indigenous groups. We have to be careful because the funding comes from a different place, and we have to raise that funding. We have to raise that money in order to send students who are not federally recognized, but we do it. And there's at least 1 or 2 students every year who come to the program who are able to get all of the same benefits as the students who are being funded through BIE. And I've already talked to some of the leadership here from the program to talk about how maybe we can have more of a partnership so that we can get students from the unrecognized tribes into the program and support them, because we know that's a huge thing. Students are coming out of law school with so much more debt than ever before. The debt burden is immense, and we need to support them. Go ahead. We do a lot more professional development with our students, networking, meeting future employers. We have a great relationship with the Tribal In-House Counsel Association. We bring them to our events so that they can do mock interviews with the students, so they can do resume review, cover letter review, that sort of thing. I think that, you know, having these sorts of partnerships, just like, you know, having, you know, a better relationship with Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights, that these sorts of partnerships, we don't have to duplicate each other's efforts. We don't have to recreate the wheel. And there's so many things that we can just partner on and get things done. Go ahead. Tell me if I'm to speed it up when I need to speed it up. We have some summer and semester clerkships. One of the things, a lot of this presentation is going through aspects of our program, but I hope that you understand that these things are because of a need. Like each aspect of our program is because someone identified a need, or we've been, you know, looking at what the students are doing and listening to what the students are telling us. One of the things our students tell us is that a lot of our students really do want clerkships in Indian law. And it's hard to find a paid clerkship, internship, externship in Indian law. It's really challenging to find that. And a lot of times students will go without the pay, get further into debt in order to get the experience that they really want. And that puts them even further behind financially. And so we worked with Bureau of Indian Education to try to address that so that these students can have still meaningful paid summer and semester experiences. And we have some partnerships with ACLU, Earth Justice. We work with tribal courts. We also work with tribal in-house counsel offices to place the students so that they're being supervised by an attorney in Indian law or tribal law matters, and they still get paid. Next slide. Judicial clerkship program. We know, you guys heard me talk about how we need more Native judges. We know that there's a correlation between being a judicial clerk and later on becoming a judge. We know that that relationship is there. And so we've been trying to encourage judicial clerkships. What's a judicial clerkship? There are like summer judicial clerkships where you can intern for a judge. But what we're also really trying to promote is the after law school, after you've completed 3 years of law school, working in a judge's chambers with a judge for at least a year, sometimes they're 2 years, and getting an insider's view of how the judge and how the court is making decisions. And in these judicial clerkships, I can't call them students anymore, because at that point they're not students. They're clerks. They're reviewing the briefs. hearing the arguments, they're writing the legal memos, and then they're drafting opinions for the judge. And this is an important insider's view that is very marketable later. I tell the students, this is a plum on your resume. It truly is. I did a judicial clerkship, and after I got to the law firm, that I was like surprised that partners were asking me questions about, well, what do you think about this? You just clerked. And I was freaked out because I didn't really feel like I knew a lot, but I did. I did. And it gave me a little bit more confidence, and, and they counted that clerkship as a year towards partnership. So it was, and clerkships have really been reserved for the few. Our students were never officially talked to about clerkships once they got to law school, because it wasn't something there are these myths out there that you have to be in the top 10% of your class. You have to do law review. You have to do these particular things in order to be a judicial clerk, or just don't even apply. And so we opt out. We self-select that we're not going to do this. And that we're trying to combat that with information. We give them information when they come into PLSI, and Samantha had to go through this. I learned
what a clerkship was at PLSI.
Yeah. And so did I leave anything out? Is that okay? And, and I'm sorry, but you called me out for it being my birthday, but I'm going to call you out because Samantha just got a clerkship on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is a huge plum.
Thank you.
It is such an important thing. It's an important thing on your resume, and even more than that. So I clerked for Judge Bill Canby on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and he is still a very close mentor of mine. He is still someone that I stay in contact with all the time, and it's a great relationship. And I'm just so excited for you and for the doors that one position is going to open for you, because it does. It will open. So yeah, go ahead. And, we have a whole committee that works on this. And also for folks who work with tribal courts, we worked with, so our students are not just interested in the federal and state clerkships. They want tribal court clerkships. So we're listening to that too. And we worked with the National American Indian Court Judges Association, NYCHA, to create a guide for tribal courts to create their own clerkships, their own judicial clerkships, which is really important too. The next slide. This is our result. I looked back in 2013, back all the way to the beginning of the program, we could count 6 judicial clerks over almost 50 years. And since 2016, we've had 28 in state and federal court. And I know, I'm so excited about that number, because it is meaningful to us that these could be our future judges. These could be future decision makers in those matters where we need more education. So I'm thrilled about this number. We also do we help students with the bar exam. I mean, that's a huge obstacle between law school. I know you go through 3 years of law school, how expensive is law school, and then you have to pay an additional amount of money and not work while you're studying. So we help with all of that. If you advance to the next slide. We also have attorney coach program, and it's, again, studying for the bar right now is so isolating. Back when I took the bar, you all went to class together, to the bar classes together. And now it's all self-paced, self-study. It's different. So it's important to develop a cohort for that too. We want them supporting each other. Next slide. And here's, additional services that we provide for the bar exam. Sammy's almost up on it. So I saw you really looking at that one.
Yeah. Mental screenshots.
Okay. Next one. We have a PLSI scholarship committee this year. We just awarded $250,000 in scholarships for students. So we're really trying to address student debt at the same time. And again, we don't always have, not all of our students qualify for the BIE funding. So we have raised money separately so that we can support the students who don't qualify for the BIE funding, BIE being Bureau of Indian Education. Address it. And so, okay, so Deb Holland's on here. She knows that I always sort of roll out her photo for things. She's one of our alumni. She, went through PLSI in 2003, came back as a teaching assistant in 2004. And, back when I first started talking about this, there were 25 Native attorneys in the United States. And now we know that there's over 2,500. There's, we've had more than, if you look in your materials, you can see the 5 facts about PLSI that, we've had over 1,500 graduates. 2 of the first 2 Native women congresswomen were Deb Holland and Sharice Davids, both PLSI alumni. 5 assistant secretaries of Indian Affairs have gone through our program. That first photo of PLSI 1968, there was one in there. Martin Seneca went through our program. And so it's, we have had an impact, but we're not there yet. We're not there. And I know that, I've shared some dreams and, and I know that people have told me to dream bigger, and I'm telling you guys to dream bigger. And, we need, but we need the support. We need the information. We need to get the word out about how urgent this is. And the efforts that we're making to get this, to get closer. And also, just to encourage folks that, you've got 2 law students right here. I don't need to talk about that because my experience is a little bit removed, but yeah, it's not easy. So I'm going to leave it there.
Good, thank you. Yeah. I think we're going to reserve questions for the end. So I'll keep going this way and pass it over to the dean.
Sure, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, it's great to be here on this panel. I want to thank. Oh, is it closer? Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, you give a dean a mic, you think you'd be able to know how to use it, and yet here we are. So, well, anyway, thank you again, Ty and Ray. Thank you for asking me to participate. This is really a wonderful conference and very, very important. I wanted to essentially riff on some of the things that Rodina has said, and to amplify from my perspective as a law school dean. And I will say, with the microphone, I have about 3 hours worth of stuff to say, but I will keep it brief, and I will keep things at sort of a general level, so then we can think about what law schools, thank you, both within Rhode Island and elsewhere, can do more of and do better. I think the work that you've done is just astounding. It's just so very important, and it's strategic, and it's relevant, and it's important, and we need more of it. So when I was thinking about what to say, I kept thinking about the name of the Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights. You can't have rights without law and the rule of law. But the law is not the same thing as justice. Right? Law is necessary for justice, but not sufficient for justice. And we have a legal system and a country that is rife with institutional and structural disparities and inequities. And those are embedded in the law. And they play out in so many ways that are pernicious, that if we don't look for them, they're invisible, and can be really hard to overcome. And frankly, that's one of the reasons I actually decided to go to law school. And then after 10 years of practice, and I like practice, I really enjoyed it, I decided to become a law professor. Because what I realized was, and what I still believe more than ever, is that law schools, when we're doing our jobs right, we can be and we should be agents of social change. We're not just there to teach people how to sue and defend, right? to draft a contract or to challenge it, to get through a regulatory process. The why is why we do the job, right? I'm very fond of saying, I went into teaching because I wanted to have more control over my time to do the things I wanted to do as a lawyer. And I wanted to do research. And I wanted to teach. And so now as a dean, I don't teach very much. I have no control over my time. And research is the exception rather than the rule. So my plan is working brilliantly. But at the same time, with emails and crises and problems and challenges, the why of what I do is deeply, profoundly moving and important. So I'm not from Rhode Island. I came here 3.5 years ago to join this law school because I thought this was a place where I could be part of the kind of change I want to be part of. I want to try and amplify in my own way. So we have a law school. It's the only law school in the state. It's private. It's nimble. We have a lot of students going into clerkships. We are per capita top 10% in the nation in terms of sending people into state and federal clerkships. So, and we're proud of that. And it really does open doors. So we make a difference. I joined a law school that already had a strategic plan that it was undertaking for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We already had a law school with a really strong, wonderful teaching faculty who was very dedicated to service, to public interest, to public service, to social justice. So I got to join that team and be part of that. And so what we've done in the past several years, we have continued to amplify our focus on judicial clerkships. We're engaged in strategic planning, new degrees that will provide more access to non-traditional students, new clinics to provide much needed service to communities across the state, to people across the state who are looking for affordable housing, which is a crisis in the Northeast, all across the Northeast. We are expanding our work for small businesses, and most businesses are small businesses, and many of those businesses are either minority business enterprises or women-owned business enterprises. So we're trying to create vibrant communities here in Rhode Island, across the state and outside the state. We're trying to help create jobs for the people who live here and want to stay here in those vibrant communities, and places for those people to live. In addition to all of that, we are starting this year, as our 30th anniversary as a law school, we are starting an Institute for Race and the Law. In 2020, we decided as a faculty, at the demand of the Black Law Student Association, to start to create and launch a new required course in race and the foundations of American law. The ask was actually that we require critical race theory. And our response was, that's not enough. So we created this course, we funded the course, we trained people to teach the course, we hired people to teach the course. And this year we're launching this institute, which will provide for research and teaching and a physical place on campus to honor and amplify this work. And it should not be lost on any of us that we're teaching that class at a law school located in Bristol, which was a slave trading port, on a campus that sits on indigenous land. So to be part of that is humbling. To always try and find a way to do what we do better is important, because we can never do everything right. We need to acknowledge where we fall short. We need to acknowledge where we don't do it right. It's not just yay, 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 look at all the awesome things we're doing. What are we not doing? What are we doing that we're not doing quite right? What can we do better? And that's where organizations like, by the way, for those of you online, whenever the lights go out, the lights are on timer. It's like I'm at a football game and everybody's doing the wave to get the motion sensors back on. So go team. We need to partner with other organizations like the Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights, which does magnificent work, is helmed by two brilliant talented, hardworking people who were law students when I came here, and I'll get to say they're my colleagues in the law. And to partner with those organizations that do the work that aligns with what we want to try to do it better than we do, so that we can help and support and engage and learn. One of the things that is often ignored about the law is that the legal profession is characterized by many things, but one particularly pernicious problem, which is that it is endemic with market failure. Not that we have too many lawyers. So we have lawyers not practicing necessarily in the areas that they're needed. And we have clients out there and communities out there who need legal representation and can't get it. Like the structural legal restriction on choosing your own lawyer without approval. Mm-hmm. So market failure is a real problem. And representation and inclusion within the legal profession is a real problem. If we don't actively work on that and improving that, we're not doing our jobs. We're perpetuating structural and institutional impediments and injustice. So 10, 15, 20 years ago, Roger Williams University School of Law was far less diverse than it is now. Our first year class this year, 28% diverse, 35% first generation, 2/3 women. We now are faced with this very interesting, and interesting is in air quotes, unfortunate situation with the recent decision by the U.S. Supreme Court in students for fair admission versus Harvard. There's an opportunity there as well, though. If we are true to our mission, which we've had since well before that decision, and we link that decision, we link who we bring in as students, we advertise who we are, we invite applications, and we bring in these students who have the grit and the determination because of their lived experiences, whatever those may be, including but not limited to race, ethnicity, you name it. We can actually maintain and improve our impact as a law school that is promoting diversity, equity. It's hard. And you're seeing a lot of law schools back off. We don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So my response is, look, bring it on. There's already been one law school that was sued, Buffalo, for a pipeline program, Mm-hmm. Not even for admissions, just a pipeline program. That nonprofit that sued them, located in Rhode Island. If we back off, we lose. And by we, I mean the kind of future students and colleagues that we should be serving. So I'll leave it there. Just a couple more comments. One of the most profoundly moving things about being a law professor is that we get to train our future colleagues. You come in the door, you think this is going to take forever, and then 32 months later, bam, there you are. And there's this minor detail called the bar exam, but you'll be fine. We get to train our future colleagues. Ty and Ray are my colleagues. I love that. It is a profoundly moving thing to be able to do that for a living. So with that, with our mission, with trying to make the law and the world a better place, one client and one student at a time, that's where I hope that we can continue to be involved and amplify our involvement. I continue to actually make the impact that we can make as a law school with determination, with courage, with thoughtfulness, with empathy. And I'll close by saying that as I think about the other three folks sitting up here, you know, I'm really the least important person sitting. I am. I'm here because of the chair I sit in. I'm here because I happen to be the dean. Servant leader. I work for my students. I work for them. I work for my colleagues. I work for the alumni. I work for the community. and I get to sit in the chair of dean for a certain number of years. That's an honor and a privilege, and it's going to go like that. I've been a dean for 10 years now, and it seems like I only just figured out what I was doing about, 2 weeks ago. So it goes like that. But if I can be part of change that has an impact, if I can help others achieve their dreams and engage in this profoundly meaningful work that you can engage in, that'll be a nice thing to have done, whether it's remembered or not. So I'll close where I started, which is to thank you again, Time Ray, for allowing me to be here and part of this great work.
Thank you. Say thank you on their behalf as well. I'll pass it over to Dusty.
Okay, so like I said earlier, I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So there's probably a lot of people here that wonder, why did you come all the way to Rhode Island to go to law school, especially when you have law schools like UNM or ASU, U of A, Montana, Lewis and Clark in Oregon, Denver, where you teach, that have such more established, I won't say better, but more established Indian law programs. So why did I come all the way to Rhode Island to do it? I will say that Samantha is the best of us. I'm certainly not a Samantha. There was no way I could get into Harvard Law. I will just say that. But that didn't stop me from applying to law school anyway. I'm what they consider, I think the word is a non-traditional student. So I did come straight from undergrad, but I took a break in undergrad. So I didn't do the traditional route of after high school, you do your 4 years in undergrad, then you go to law school right away. I took about a 3-year break in undergrad, and then I came to law school. And I think that was the best decision because you need a sense of maturity to come to law school, and I just wasn't there yet. So, but that's okay because I'm still here. So I was interested in environmental law when I was deciding to go to law school, and Roger Williams School of Law is well known for that. Our Marine Affairs Institute and the Joint Degree Program is what attracted me. But in the back of my mind, I also wanted to go to a school that had some sort of federal Indian law, either courses or program offered. So every school I applied to, I went through their course catalog to make sure that there was some sort of federal Indian law class offered. And there was, and Professor Palermo actually teaches that now, and he's my professor this semester. So I was like, okay, so Roger Williams is a contender for sure. I got to keep looking though. I've never, the furthest I've been to New York, but like leisurely for Christmas. Like I've never lived in New England before. And I did my undergrad in LA. So I was like, I would love to stay in California. I'm a California girl to my heart. But then as I started to get rejection letters or waitlisted, I was starting to lose a little bit of hope. And then I got my acceptance from Roger Williams, and I had gotten some other acceptances too, but they gave me the biggest scholarship. And I was like, okay, well, and like Rodina says, law school's crazy expensive. The debt that we're going to be in afterwards is absurd. So I had to think about that. So the more I got rejections and acceptances and stuff, Roger Williams just kept moving its way to the top of my list. And then it was finally time to decide, which is another reason why I didn't get to do Rodina's program, is just I wasn't organized enough, I guess, before I came to law school. So my uncles, I had to ask my mom this, and she wasn't sure. I know one for sure did her PSLI program, so it is possible for non-recognized people to go to her program. And he went to ASU, and now he works for the Pechanga tribe out in California. So I was like, okay, I didn't do that, but I still think I could go to law school. And then we made the move out here. My family drove us out here. My dog, my partner, we all piled in the car. And I got to Roger Williams. And when I got here, it was during orientation, I think, and they gave us a list of events from like all of the organizations. And that's when I saw the American Indian Law Student Association was having a drum circle. I was like, wow, that's familiar to me. I can do that. I was like, I I thought I'd seen an American Indian Law Student Association, and I don't know if I've ever admitted this to you two, but I stalked your Instagrams when I got here. Because I was like, when did this start? It seems fairly new. And it was, and I didn't realize that they had just graduated the class before I came in. So then during my 1L year, I became the organization 1L rep under Orla Power, who just graduated and I think just passed the bar. So good for Orla. But she always led our meetings. She felt bad by saying, you know, she is Irish with pale skin and blushed cheeks, but it was something she was passionate about and wanted to keep alive. And she was really close to, I think, Ty and Ray. So she wanted to do that for them as well. And then she approached me her last semester of law school and asked if I would be willing to step up and take over as president when she left. And I said I didn't want to step over any 3Ls because 3Ls need to do what they need to do. So they wanted the position, they could have it. But then she told me that I was the only Indigenous kid in my incoming class. And she was like, you know, this program is for kids like you. So we would be thrilled to have you. And so, of course, I did it. So I'm the current president of the American Indian Law Student Association that Ty and Ray founded. So that's really cool, too. And then we have a pro bono requirement that we have to do 50 hours to graduate. And I think we just got an email with some options, and I saw the Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights. And I didn't apply for any internships that summer. I didn't really know how to. And since I was new to the East Coast, I didn't really know where I wanted to work. But since they were offering the internship for pro bono hours, I was like, yeah, let's just do that. And I spent the whole summer there, and I'm still working with them now. So even though Roger Williams may have not been my first choice, it's definitely worked out for the best. I've been able to get the education I need in Indian law to hopefully become an advocate for our communities in the future. And that is thanks to Ty and Ray and Dee Bowman. And hopefully what comes from this panel is to somehow get Roger Williams on the map, I guess, for future Indigenous law students. So they don't, especially over here, leaving home is really hard, especially this far away. So I don't want them to think the only viable option for them is to go to UNM, is to go to ASU. Like, I want them to know that Roger Williams is a viable option for them. And same thing, West Coast. If the West Coast kids want to get away, they can come here, you know? And like I said, Samantha's the best of us. And maybe they think, oh my gosh, I can't get into Harvard. I can't get into Yale. I can't get into Columbia. So where can I go? Well, they can come here. Because I did. So, and that's what we need to, what Rodina has been saying, you know, I'm going to need someone to take over AILSA for me. And I hope someone does, because it's given me so many opportunities. A lot of us have been volunteering at this conference. So that's been great. We just joined the National Native American Law Student Association. I did that on my own. I paid the fee by myself. I didn't even ask our SBA or anything, because it's just something I wanted. It's just something
Don't see me about.
Okay. But it's just something I wanted to take initiative for, because it opens so many doors. Not even just for Indigenous kids. There's some AILSA members sitting in here now who don't have an Indigenous background, but are interested in the things that being a part of NALSA offers. We can go to the moot court competitions. We can go, they have a writing competition. The Federal Indian Bar Conference in Albuquerque every year. So that's just kind of stuff that I wanted Roger Williams to be a part of. And I hope that with Rodina here, talking about her program, Samantha here being the role model we all need, we can get students coming here, and then we can keep it going for generations to come. So thank you for allowing me to be on this panel with you guys.
Thank you so much, Dustin. Okay. I'm gonna see how are we doing on time. Okay. All right. So we'll turn it over maybe to questions. Can folks online put it in the chat? Okay. So folks online, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. I'll open it up to the audience, and then if nobody has questions, yes.
I should preface it by saying my first name is not Dean, it's Greg. I haven't changed it yet. So everyone else is going by first names. I really think that's very important. Oh, repeat the question. The question is about, and Ray, please add and correct as needed. So the recent Supreme Court decision in students for fair admissions, which is causing some philanthropic organizations and schools across the nation, and in particular in this region, to sort of step back from their work. But your point is that being Native American, being Indian is a political status as opposed to race under federal U.S. law. And I think the answer is yes. I mean, not to oversimplify it, because there are some wrinkles, but I mean, I've had that very conversation with the Dean of Utah, Elizabeth Cronk Warner, who really is engaged in this work, and with Kevin Washburn at Iowa, who came from New Mexico. And
He's one of ours.
yes,
He was on
yes, he's fantastic. So, and the Dean of, but he's top 20 law school dean, and Elizabeth's doing a great job at Utah. So yeah, there really is an opportunity there. I would say, from my perspective, I don't think it changes the strategic and moral focus. And there is a way, and it works. You have to be careful, but what is your mission? How do you live that mission and market and brand yourself so that people say, I want to go to that law school? As opposed to what it used to be, which was admissions was sort of a black box. You say we want diversity, and on the other side, you get a diverse class, and nobody quite knew what happened in the middle. Now we have to connect those dots. So how do we bring in students that focus on our mission of social justice and public interest and public service, and have the kind of gumption and grit and determination and lived experiences and commitment to social justice, and their lived experiences inform that? So that those are the reasons, but those reasons are based on the lived experiences that they have. And that leads to a diverse class. And the schools that can do that well, like I said, there's actually a huge opportunity. And I'm very cognizant of the risks, but I'm also very excited about it. And we just don't intend to back down. Within that, there's an operation or tactical response that we can say, and for Indigenous applicants, there's an even better opportunity to carve that out. And we need to have more Indigenous students. We just do. You know, if we don't have the institutional and administrative support for that, what you end up with at law schools and universities is you get these great students who come in and they do something transformational, like Ty and Ray did. Then they graduate, and then nothing happens. And then a few years later, somebody comes along and does something really neat. What you need is the institution and the folks who are sitting in those chairs at that time to keep that moving and to push it and to fund it. We need to talk about your reimbursement, and push and amplify and partner with outside organizations. So that's a long-winded professorial answer. The answer should have been yes. I think that's an advantage and an opportunity. I think it's embedded within this larger strategic scope of how do we connect dots in a way that does us and the students we want to serve and the mission we want to serve a lot of good.
I'll add my 2 cents to say that something as well. On the note of institutional memory, so Destiny, I'm also one of the Native American Law Students Association co-presidents right now. One thing that we struggle with is institutional memory for when the 3 or 4 Native students advocating for things at a school graduate and it just kind of falls away. And one of the things that I think plays into what Rodina is trying to do is having Native professors makes such a big difference when it comes to having somebody remember what the community has done and be able to carry that over through law school generations. And so
yes,
interweaving those as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. More questions.
Can I just want to add just a couple of things to what you guys said. One of the things that when law schools come to PLSI to recruit, and a lot of law schools come to our program to recruit because they know that they're going to get prepared students. Sometimes when they're first starting out, what I tell them is exactly sort of what you got at, is that when you're thinking about Native students, these are dual citizens. It's not just a question of what the racial makeup is. They're dual citizens. They are members of another nation, and they bring that consideration with them. And so, you know, we're encouraged, if folks don't have the tribal citizenship question on their applications, they should. And ask them about their citizenship. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I think that a lot of law schools, you know, one of the challenges for law students, for our students when they go to law school, is sometimes, you know, the biggest challenge can just be the administrative system of the law school. Yes. and not feeling seen, not being invisible. And, you know, I talked to Destiny about this, you know, a little while ago, about how it's so hard sometimes to get numbers regarding, you know, the data for Native judges, or for, you know, Native attorneys, or, you know, different categories, because this group is smaller than the other groups. And so it might not be worth it research wise to collect the data, to analyze the data, to report on the data for such a small group. But they have to do it because it's meaningful. It is an important group. And report on, and sometimes, you know, they'll say, well, the number's so small, why is it, you know, why should I bother reporting it? Report it so we can show how small the number is. It's a starting place. And also, I'm sort of going back to one of your points, is it is very important for law schools not to put this burden of developing the NALSA groups, the Indian groups, on the students, because I want you've heard me say this, I want you guys to go into law school and be successful, and not to have those additional burdens. It is hard enough to deal with the isolation and the exhaustion of walking through law school with exactly who you are, and then to have additional work put on you to create a new program, because in your hearts, you don't want anyone else to go through what you're going through. So you want to leave something behind for them, and it's hard. And I ask the law schools out there to step it up. We can do better. I can do better. I know I've told you guys that too. I can do better to, you know, to help you, and to, you know, to connect all you guys. But it is hard. And, you know, and I thank you for your leadership. I thank you for your leadership in doing this.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Duly noted.
I will try. Oh yeah, that will be great.
Yeah, I could try to. I was sitting here trying to take notes, and I'm sure I'll get it wrong. Um, the point made was that the political versus race distinction is less clear than we might like it to be. That there are some legal challenges to that, and that's what I was referring to when I said it's a little more complicated than that. But and so that was one part, and then your suggestions were to think about ways to actually underscore and amplify the political dimension by having a nation to nation, government to government exchange with uh, with with tribes, with nations, and then to focus on pipeline programs or pathway programs as well, which actually we're working on right now, which is not Indigenous specific, but we're working on a middle school pathway program. There's actually research out there by the Association of American Law Schools that shows us that there are three main points in life when people decide to go to law school. And it's not surprising, really, but it's helpful. Some people, like me, wake up in their junior year of college and say, "Oh, what am I going to do? Well, I guess I'll go to law school." The LSAT sounds like fun. How hard could that be? So there are people who say they want to be a lawyer since a very young age, because they hope. But the early and middle years of high school are the biggest ones. So that should be a key focus. And even before that into middle school. And the last point you were talking about was to actually provide for skills development for students coming in through those pathways, because we end up with students coming into law school who underperform because they didn't have access to the education that they deserve and need. That's a nationwide problem with varying degrees of challenge. That is one of the biggest challenges I see for law schools, and especially as we try to amplify our impact and provide opportunities for education to really bright, ambitious, hardworking folks who didn't have the educational opportunities that others do. Did I sort of hit the main points? So I think you answered a lot of it. I'll let these folks. I don't want to talk the whole time. I'll let these folks talk.
I have a couple of responses to what you brought up regarding the folks that the Brett-Keene decisions are not exactly done. They're not done yet. And I know you know that. The forces behind that case, when you think about, big law, oil and gas, behind this issue of Indian children. Okay, you're right. They're not done yet. And regarding the, I think that, you said it and without exactly saying it, but tribes have always had a very complicated relationship around education, around the Western American educational system. And we recognize that. And that's why tribal colleges and universities and tribal education departments are so important to what we do, because tribal colleges and universities are run by the tribes and teach tribal culture, tribal language, and other things that other universities aren't teaching. But you're right that, you know, they might not be necessarily getting the background that they need to be in writing to be successful in law school. And, you know, so we don't just, the PLSI program, we have funding for outreach, and we have stepped that up. I couldn't put everything in my presentation. It went on forever. So I had to cut some things out, but I'm glad that you brought it up because that is so important. And a lot of times, you know, folks will come up through the tribal colleges. We've had very successful students who came from tribal colleges and universities. IAIA, Institute for American Indian Arts. We had a student from Oglala Lakota College who, you know, came through and graduated from Arizona State a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's all Dene College. And Haskell, we've had some students from Haskell come through and graduate. And you're also right that not all of these students are going on to be lawyers and to practice. They're in policy positions, they're in administrative positions and other positions. You know, we talk about Indian law, and students, a lot of times students come through PLSI because they really do want to practice Indian law. They want to go back and fight for justice for tribes. But, you know, there's no requirement when you come through our program that you have to do that. We need Native at every table. We want representation at all of the meetings. And it doesn't matter if a student wants to come through and, you know, practice corporate law in the end, or, you know, sports law, or, you know, entertainment law, family law, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter to us. We're not going to make you practice Indian law. We're not going to give you a pledge that you have to do this one particular thing. You need to be at every table. So yes, all of those things that you raised are definitely important. And, you know, we are trying definitely with the tribal colleges and universities and the tribal education departments, because again, that relationship with education and with lawyers is very complicated for tribes. And to have tribes send their students to us far away to a program or to a law school there's a lot that goes, it's very complicated. There's a lot that goes into that. Thank you for raising those points.
Do we have time for one more question? Yeah.
Of course not. So actually, the clubs, they run their boards however they want, kind of, just as long as the SBA says it's okay. We do have one 1L rep. I don't know what section you're in, but I think she's B, so we could totally add you to our 1L rep board if that was something you were interested in. Yeah, I would love that too. Like I said, I'm only a 2L, but I'll be a 3L next year, and it's gonna have to survive after me. So I'm hoping you guys will keep it alive. And I think that's another misconception with our group is, did you see us at the student org fair? Is that where you saw us? Where we all, yeah. So they walked by us, and it was me and Jackie. She's another intern with the center. She is Native Hawaiian, I believe. I mean, you look at her and you know she's Hawaiian. You look at me, you're like, are you sure? Like, like I know it looks like I don't see the sun ever, but the group is for everyone. So you don't have to be an American Indian, a Native American to join our group. And that's what's really cool about our group. Balsa is kind of the same way, but there's such a bigger population of kids at Roger Williams for Balsa. So I think that's why, you know, they're always the big crowd. They draw the big crowds in, but I'm hoping we can get to that point. And you've been here all weekend, right? So yeah, so you've heard the many different places that Indigenous people come from. Yeah, so we definitely consider you Indigenous and we would love to have you in our group. So yes. Yeah, I hope this weekend proved to you that they do. And many of them are still sitting in this room. So I hope you feel better about that. But thank you. I look forward to working with you. Make sure you get my email.
Oh, well, looks like we're out of time. That was a lovely note to end on. I'm excited for some NOLSA energy. But I want to thank our panelists first for coming and sharing all of your stories and all the programs that you're working on. Yeah, for having us on.